Back on HQ, and if you're looking for TD, draft CeeDee. Last year, Lamb set single-season yards and receptions records for the Cowboys. Also found the end zone 12 times. You add it all up, Lamb finished as the top fantasy point-producing wideout in PPR scoring. CeeDee ranked second overall, regardless of position, only behind Josh Allen. Don't take my word for it. We turn to professionals. CBS Sports fantasy expert Adam Azer in the mix. Adam, it's a done deal in Dallas. Obviously, everyone can exhale there in Big D, but what impact does this have on your CeeDee projections for this season, if any at all?
I'm not very professional, just to let you know, but we'll give it a shot. Now, you could say the number 3 overall player in fantasy. I'm still taking McCaffrey 1. Tyreek Hill, number 2. But if you want to take Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson ahead of those guys, that's fine as well. But CeeDee Lamb is definitely wide receiver 2. He's been wide receiver 2 for me all along. I know a lot of people had him as wide receiver 1, and they might put him back there. If you like him better than Tyreek Hill, that's fine. Lamb is terrific. He's extremely safe. He's going to dominate targets. So I actually don't think we should spend too much time on him. He's an easy top 5 pick and should be at worst wide receiver 2. Let's talk about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a guy that I think isn't that sexy in terms of fantasy appeal. It doesn't feel like he has a ton of upside, but he's actually been top 4 per game in 3 of the last 5 seasons. One of those was only 4.5 games, and he was throwing like over 50 times a game. But he's been top 8 per game in 4 of the last 5 seasons. He's safe, and he actually has top 8, maybe even top 5 upside. I don't draft a lot of Dak Prescott because I'll talk about Kyler Murray in a little bit. I like Kyler better. Take Jaden Daniels ahead of him, or I'll wait for Caleb Williams or something. But if you are a Dak guy, this is great news for him. He's an underrated fantasy player, and we did a draft today. He went super late, so he could be there at QB9, QB10, and that's a really good value for Dak.
Dak needs better PR. If nothing else, our fantasy firm bolstering him here into the conversation. I got a couple drafts fast approaching myself, as we all do, so forgive me if this does get oddly specific. What's your RB strategy this season? I know we've heard a couple on the Fantasy Football Today podcast on what you could do. Hero RB, we could wait on him. I mean, who's the guy you find yourself drafting with some frequency this year in that strategy?
Oh, it's a 29-year-old running back who hasn't had a carry longer than 30 yards straight seasons, of course. I'm talking about Alvin Kamara. He's actually a centerpiece to my running back strategy. There's a trio of running backs, Kamara, Ken Walker, and Mixon, that are available according to ADP in the 4th round. I'm starting to see them go in the 3rd round, not necessarily Mixon, but Kamara and Walker, and I'm okay with that. And those are great RB2s. My running back strategy is to get one with one of my first 2 picks. It's like a hero RB approach, but I'll modify it if I can get Kamara late in the 3rd or the 4th round and throw Ken Walker in there and throw Mixon in there in the 4th round. I won't take Mixon in the 3rd round. Then I'll get 2 running backs. But then I'll wait. I wait a pretty long time after that. I'm probably not getting back into running back until 6, 7, 8, 9, that range, and even beyond that. So I like to get the hero RB, but Kamara has great value. This guy, he hasn't been an efficient running back for 3 straight years. He's been a bad running back. And he's been elite in 2 of those 3 seasons because he gets so many catches. He was number 4 per game last year. He is exactly what Rachaad White is, except he's older. But if you like Rachaad White, you should like Kamara. And I'm actually optimistic with Clint Kubiak coming over from the San Francisco system that this Saints offense will be even better this year and Kamara can score more touchdowns.
Give me a second as I write down the answers to the test here that you offer us all. We've grown fond in one of my leagues of a 2-flex setup, requires some depth, and I often find myself turning to wideouts more times than not with the value there in a second flex position. Who's a guy you think is going to be underdrafted, maybe provides a potential edge on the outside?
Yeah, it's T. Higgins. He's a 5th-round pick in CBS ADP. He's wide receiver 29 or 30, and it's not just CBS. T. Higgins is being just horribly undervalued right now. It's actually amazingly undervalued if you like T. Higgins. I liked him a lot last year, and he definitely burned me. But listen, there were maybe 2 games last year where both he and Joe Burrow were actually healthy. Like, Burrow took a while for him to get. He finally got right. Higgins got hurt. Let's look at the previous 2 seasons. 2021, you had a really good year from Higgins. He averaged about 15 points per game. He was a top 15 wide receiver per game. 2022 didn't look as good, but that's because he left 3 games really early with injuries. Those 3 games dragged his per game averages down. You have to take that out. When T. Higgins is on the field with a healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy Jamar Chase, he can get you about 15 fantasy points per game. That's the type of player you would take in round 3. You can get that in round 5. Also, Jamar Chase has missed time 2 years in a row. When Jamar Chase is not there, T. Higgins is a legit wide receiver 1. You might get a few weeks of him scoring over 20 fantasy points if Chase misses time. So I love waiting for him in the 5th round. It's a steal. I should have taken him today at the 3-4 turn. I chickened out in a draft today, but I like him that much. Round 4 for sure. And if you can get him in round 5, it's a steal.
Yeah, you got someone playing for what's out in front of him as well, whether it be there in Cincinnati, unlikely, or elsewhere. You'd like to walk with those numbers and say, find me in that 25 to 30 range. I'm sure that's where his mind is at, or at least his agents. All right, you alluded to it earlier, quarterback. It's always an interesting one. If you're going to be the reach 2 rounds too early to guy, there's obvious names there. But talk to me about the midfield. You like Kyler Murray as a quarterback that you plan on rostering in multiple leagues?
I actually like quarterback value all through the draft up until you get to about 15 quarterbacks in. But Kyler Murray is really good value. In a 6-point per passing touchdown league, I like him better than Anthony Richardson, not in a 4-point passing touchdown league. As I mentioned earlier, I do like Kyler Murray better than Dak Prescott. Listen, there have been times in Kyler's career, basically half of 2 seasons, where he's been number 1, number 2, an absolutely elite fantasy option, one of the best in football, and then injuries kind of derailed him a little bit. Last year, he comes back from the torn ACL. He doesn't really have any good wide receivers. Marquise Brown got hurt, and he's still a top 12 quarterback per game. Now he's going to run more efficiently because he's a year removed from the ACL injury, another year removed from it, and he's got Marvin Harrison. And he's pretty much bust-proof. He is so safe. There is almost no way I could see Kyler Murray finishing outside the top 12. It would have to be an amazing year for quarterbacks, and other guys would pass him. But he is going to be a top 12, almost certainly a top 10 quarterback, and I do think he has top 5 upside if Marvin Harrison is as good as we think he is.
Certainly another one to keep our eyes on. As I said, I got an open draft room right now, Adam. So make me be the smart guy here for a second. Who's the player that I need to have on one of these 2 rosters I'm drafting tonight? Give me a name that I'm highlighting in yellow to, at the end of the season, say, look how smart I am.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I can help you with that. We're going to have to win the championship for that. But let's try Josh Palmer. I think Josh Palmer is going to lead the Chargers in snaps. Will he lead the Chargers in targets? Very, very possible. Over the last 2 years, he's played a pretty decent chunk of games without both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, or one of them leaving early with an injury. And he gets about 7 or more targets per game. That's really, really good for a guy that you can get in like round 9 or 10. Going way after pick 100. You might be able to get him later than that. So I actually was on the clock today, and I had to decide between McConkey and Palmer, because McConkey has really fallen. I did take McConkey. He has more upside than Palmer. But Palmer is a very safe wide receiver 4. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 5. I think it's very likely he's a wide receiver 3, a low-end wide receiver 3 this season. So you want to look smart. You take Josh Palmer. You know what? Name your team after him. We'll find some Josh Palmer fun. We'll be all in on Josh Palmer.
Palmer Sunday. There's the name. Adam Azer, we appreciate you, as always, for weighing in here on HQ. Should be a fun fantasy season ahead of us. If you want to win this year, win with us. It's Fantasy Football Today, wherever you get your podcasts. Pre-draft analysis, waiver wire winners, and much more. Our team is here to help yours on Fantasy Football Today.